thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you guys for all sticking around for the Q&A. I will. It is bright. It is pretty bright. I'm going to take audience questions, but I'll start off with a few of my own. But I'll try and see you guys out there. So be thinking of those. But I just want to congratulate you both again. I love this film. I may have shed a tear again at the end just then, so standing in the back. And I'm just so happy that you're here. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, like we said before screening the film, we're very happy to be here, to be back at AFI, and so many friends among the audience, people who worked on the film too. So thank you.
And Peter, I just wanted to ask how you came to be involved with this project, and what was it about this character that made you want to tell this story?
So Michel and I met right near Russ and Daughters Appetizers in New York City, if anybody knows where that is. That's right. And if you don't, find out. And I just, I really, really, really wanted this part. And maybe I acted like a little bit cooler than that. But we went for a very long walk together. Like the meeting was basically we met, and then we just started walking. We walked for a very long time. And for me, I just knew that I wanted to play this guy. I felt like he was like more me than me, and that he was somebody I really wanted to be with. Yeah.
And I think the audience does too, for sure. Michel, I also wanted to ask you about the script for this and how it kind of changes and morphs from what it starts out as almost like it could become a revenge thriller, something like that, and it changes into something completely different, and very different to your other work, I'll say as well. Could you talk a bit about that?
About what it was going to be and what ended up being? It's very simple, and Jessica's good at telling that story. She always says that she was ready to put the script down, not even finish reading it, when it came to the scene where she accuses him and all that. She said, I'm not interested in doing a revenge movie. I was going to write that. It was my sister, who's also a writer, director, that before I wrote it, I told her, this is what I'm going to do. And she said, come on, challenge yourself. That's easy for you to do. Because, I've explored dark material before. I think this film's still very dark and complex in many ways, and I think the actors were very good at it. But it's also true that I was at a more peaceful stage in my life, and I like that challenge of writing this thing where things keep getting better on every opportunity instead of the opposite, which I've done so many times.
And there's a lot of humor in this film.
I think there's humor in all my films, even if it's dark humor. Yeah.
And your sister was at that first meeting as well. She stayed behind for the walk, but I'm told that she's the one that helped push me over the edge. Yeah.
It was a no-brainer for me. Anyhow, when I asked Jessica, because I knew that the chemistry on screen was the key element to make this film work. So I give actors a lot of space on every sense. I think, that makes my life easier and the films better. So I asked Jessica, who should play Saul? Who's the actor you always wanted to work with? And Peter's name was the first, so, I listened. And when we met, it was, we got along immediately.
And I showed you that I was sufficiently out of shape.
Yeah, I because I knew Peter's a runner and a former football player, soccer, you say here in the States. So I was afraid of him being like, like athletic. So
don't be afraid.
Yeah. So so on the New York winter,
I showed him my belly.
Yeah.
I literally, on our walk, I stopped, and because he was talking, you were alluding to it somehow, and I was like, I guarantee it. Look at me.
There you go, yeah. I said, if you gain a few more kilos, that's okay, too.
Do we have any audience questions out there? I'm trying to see hands. Yes, here in the front, in the green. Yes.
First of all, thank you both for being here. I was wondering, so as someone who also recently kind of moved to New York City for the first time, I was wondering how much you feel the setting offers to both the story as well as the characters. So.
I'll just repeat the question for everyone in the back. It's about the New York setting and how much you feel that offers to, contributes to the film.
I would never do that silly thing where you shoot in a place but you pretend it's a different place. Just to give you even a better example, before we talk about New York, when I shoot in Saul's apartment, we didn't dress it. That's the way it looks. Actually, the widow, the character's widow, the redhead that's on the photos, she's the widow of the owner of the house, just by chance. He's a very Saul character. And I asked him, can we use the photos of your late wife? He said, of course, I take it as a, homage.
And she's redheaded.
Yeah, it was a strange, big coincidence. I shoot in chronological order, in order, so we go back and forth from locations. So I keep it as real as I can. New York's a dream of a city to shoot. I shot a movie in Los Angeles in 2014, and now this in New York. The main reason to shoot films in these cities is because you get the best actors, even day players, for whatever scene. So I love New York. It was, many of my favorite films were shot in New York. And then we shot in Brooklyn because Manhattan, we've seen so much in every movie that most of it is Brooklyn, where every actor other than Jessica lives anyhow. So it was, instead of we had no trailers or any stuff like that. So if we had like a couple of free hours, Peter would go home.
Yeah, it was very close to my house. I go home for lunch.
Yeah, movies are people make movies about all the bullshit that surrounds the movie instead of about the movie, that, you get lost. It's
everything you do and the way that you shoot, which I think is so smart, is to facilitate the important part of the movie. You're like, we don't need to waste our time running from like a place that's here to a place that's 2 hours away and change locations in this dramatic way. Is like, how about the school is, well, that's a school. How about that place? And it's great because it really is. And you were really into getting into New York City, and you still are. Once you get to know a place, you get to know that how similar all of it is in a certain sense. It could be that school, it could be that school. It doesn't matter.
Also because I grew up in Mexico City, New York's an okay place for me. It's not overwhelming or anything. Yeah.
As opposed to Los Angeles.
We'll save that for later.
I saw a question here, in the hat. Yeah.
Hi. I was just curious, because I feel like there's central themes, like two broken characters kind of coming together. But I was curious why you chose the themes of dementia, alcoholism, and rape.
The question is about the themes of dementia, alcoholism, and rape, and why you chose to incorporate those.
Well, you first said they're broken characters, and then there's all the subject matters. Well, I don't sit and think what are the subject matters I'm about to explore. They just show up. All I knew when I started writing this film is that Jessica's character would go to a class reunion, and she would meet Peter's character. He would follow her home. I didn't know why. And he would stay out all night. That's how I started writing this film. I don't know why. And then I started to wonder, to get the answers of who they are and what's the backstory. And this is what happened. I didn't even know that the concept of memory was such like a round concept where he cannot remember who he is and she can't forget. And that I was surprised when I read the first draft. I was like, well, that's kind of clever and it should be called memory. But I was surprised myself. Yeah.
Yes, here in the front.
I'm an editing fellow in AFI, and my question is about the editing. One of the most interesting and effective choices that I thought was there in the film is during the conversation scenes, we stay on the wide shot and we don't cut to the close shots at all. for more.
There are no close shots.
Yeah, I don't shoot them. You wanna?
The question is about staying on the close shots and not. Sorry.
It's you're an editor. You said you introduce yourself as an editor. It's some people think that there's not much editing going on in my movies because there's no coverage. I shoot pretty much everything from a single angle. A good example of a scene that has a cut to some sort of medium close-up, or it's meant to be a close-up, but it's not. It's when she asks for forgiveness, and then we cut to Peter saying, "Can I write what you just told me?" That's a pickup or a retake or however you call it. We shot it on the last couple of days of shooting because every time I finish a film, I watch it and then I go back to the locations and I keep shooting additional stuff. But that's an example. I precisely needed Peter's reaction on that scene. But I don't like the approach of filmmakers saying just shoot everything from every side and then let the editor decide. That's like TV or even worse. I don't know what that is. That's like not having a point of view. And a director's job is to have a point of view.
I love it how you always say, like, there is a place where the camera belongs in this scene, and we're going to figure it out.
There's only one.
He has the actors act the scene, and then he goes, like, there must be a exact place where the camera goes.
And then about 20% or 30% of what you see on screen are reshoots because we didn't find the right position for the camera. So we go back and we get it right, or because the actors tell me.
Because if you're shooting a oneer, right, and doing that for all your scenes, you end up with a couple of extra days in the end because you didn't waste all your time shooting a bunch of bullshit. Yeah. So then you can go back and like add things like he does, or shoot an additional scene, or reshoot a scene.
Yeah, but there's no coverage because what am I covering myself from? Just shoot it properly. But having said that, the editing process is very tricky because where to place a scene and where to go in the scene and out of the scene, that's a hell of an editing job. And I have an old-timer with me called Oscar Figueroa, and he's very good at it. Yeah.
And the editor, by the way, on his movies is in the basement usually.
There's no video, there's no monitors, no video assist, but we have the editor on the basement locked down. So he's putting together the film as we shoot, and we see what's going on.
Yeah, I did want to ask you why you chose in the opening scene in the AA meeting, super close up and kind of to the side, almost back, and then no other shot was like that in the whole movie.
The question was about in the AA meeting opening scene about shooting super close up as opposed to the rest of the film.
That's the first day of shooting on our film. We started by the beginning and we finished with the ending. This is a real meeting. They're not actors. Of course, they agree to be on the film and tell their true stories or to make up stories. I don't know what they're doing because it's none of my business. But it's a real meeting. So I just... On screen, you see like 7 or 8. We shot about 30. We shot everyone on the meeting, and they told their story. So it's just a documentary approach. And these people that went through so much that you see on AA meetings, their faces say, that you can tell by their faces and their eyes so much that's why I placed the camera like that. And then I didn't want to give away Jessica so... just to give her away. So we present her in a bit of a, not mysterious, but, we take our time discovering Jessica that we're going to be with anyhow for the next couple of hours.
Yes, here in the white.
So I was just wondering, this film deals with a lot of sensitive topics, and so I was just wondering, like, as a director and then as an actor, how do you approach, like, portraying these sensitivities, like, to the most accurate, or I guess in the right position? What's the difference how would you approach that as a director versus as an actor?
The question is about the sensitive topics in the film and how Michel and Peter...
Every single character you ever play has a thing like that. It's just part of the human condition. Like, there's no one in this room that doesn't have that. You know, I mean, maybe not everyone in this room has dementia, not everyone in this room suffered sexual abuse, but it's just, that kind of thing is so part of being human. It's just the most essential thing. I don't think we would have movies without it, you know?
Yeah, what's strange is that often movies seem to be avoiding good material, real material. You know, like patronizing the audience, thinking it should just be entertainment. I think it should be entertainment. I hope you weren't bored, because that's my biggest fear as a filmmaker, to bore the audience. But my best tool to not bore you is to fit something that's, you know, meaningful. And like Peter was saying, everyone through life goes through, you know, we all lost dear ones, and we all carry around traumas and secrets. And I want you to relate to what you're seeing on screen from your own experience and the actors. I don't know everything about how Peter approached his character, and I don't want to know it, you know. He's got his reasons, and that's why his performance is so good. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if I answered the question.
It's actually one of the things that I really like about the character is he's like, so I've got 5 minutes left. You've got 20 years. Let's like use my last 5 minutes together, you know? And we are all facing the same problem, which is that we're going to die. And I really just, you talk about like someone who has trauma or someone who has a condition. He refuses to be his condition. He's like, I'm not dementia. I'm just this guy who's.
I think that's why you're so good, because you didn't play dementia. You play Saul, and then he's got dementia, you know. And any other actor that's less good than Peter would have played dementia, and then the film would be nothing. Yeah.
Well, the thing is, I also knew a little bit about dementia because my uncle, who I like adored, he had it quite young, and he had it because he played football and boxed. And, you know, like when he was first diagnosed, he was still somebody that you would, you know, he was a little forgetful, but he was just he was still my Uncle Bubba, you know, and I think a lot of times we resign people to a different category of, okay, now you're the guy with dementia. And listen, and it gets really rough, and it gets to the point where you question all of it. But, you know, what's interesting about this movie is it's the beginning for this guy in a lot of ways. And his brother has certainly condemned him, you know. His brother's like, this guy can't do anything. He's taken over my house. But that's the thing that I always really liked about the movie, you know.
Well, thank you guys both so much for being here.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for sharing.